It's Michael Douglas, and welcome to Dr. Pundit, where we talk about music, not medicine. And on this edition of the show, it's, I guess, a commemorative 9/11 edition. And I'll be talking about 4 songs that were banned in the immediate aftermath of 9/11. Now, there are a lot of songs that can fit into this category, but today's line items will discuss this as well. These are some of the more well-known examples. Now, I remember 9/11 like, of course, it was yesterday for a lot of people. I was rounding that day, and as the first tower went down, I was in the hospital rounding on patients. By the time the North Tower, I think it was the North Tower, the second tower was destroyed. I was watching it live back at the office. Later that day, I had a full schedule of patients, and only one patient showed up, and she had an 11:45 appointment at that time. So just a really, weird, surreal time. And I guess this is my way of kind of marking this anniversary as well. So let's get to it. The attacks on 9/11, September 11th, 2001, killed 2,977 people, 2,996 when counting the 19 hijackers, and changed the world forever. Now today, 23 years later, reverberations of that harrowing Tuesday are still felt. And legislation changed, air travel changed forever and became more secure. And for some Americans, attitudes about Middle East and Islam were irrevocably shifted. And in the short term, the immediate aftermath, entertainment was censored on many fronts, and songs were banned from the radio. And at that time, still most Americans were listening to the radio, were banned after 9/11. Now, the days after the attacks, Clear Channel Communications, which is now iHeartMedia, the largest owner of terrestrial radio stations in the country, sent out an internal memo which labeled songs as lyrically questionable or insensitive to a degree to play on the radio in the immediate aftermath of the attacks. And while the memorandum wasn't an outright ban on those songs, DJs were strongly urged to temporarily pull over 150 songs from rotations in the 9/11 attacks and the response to those attacks. Now, songs referencing airplanes like Leavin' on a Jet Plane and Benny and the Jets, or those that reference the Middle East, such as Walk Like an Egyptian and Rock the Casbah, were also on the list. Additionally, the conglomerate also wanted songs that were critical of the US government, including all songs by bands like Rage Against the Machine, and those songs by that band were completely pulled from the airwaves. Now, I've got 4 classic rock songs that fall under the classic rock genre that were certainly banned in the immediate aftermath by many radio stations, probably as many as 2/3 of the radio stations in this country, in the immediate aftermath of the 9/11 attacks. The first is Travelin' Band by CCR. Now, of course, it doesn't get any more all-American than Creedence Clearwater Revival. The swamp rock band from the West Coast is a staple among classic radio stations and a favorite among fans. However, their hit song, Travelin' Band, in the immediate aftermath of the 9/11 attacks, was banned. Now, it's likely that the opening line, 737 coming out of the sky, landed the track on this banned list. And while the hijackers used 757s and 767s, the media conglomerate likely deemed the reference to a Boeing commercial jet just too insensitive for the radio at that time. American Pie by Don McLean. This song was also banned in the immediate aftermath after the attacks. The song doesn't directly reference planes or the Middle East, nor does it even criticize the US government. However, many know that the song's lyrics are about the plane crash that killed Buddy Holly the day the music died. Additionally, the song American Pie is also a mournful song about getting bad news, death, a nation in mourning, and the combination of all these factors made the song, I guess, somewhat of poor fit, as determined by the radio conglomerate in the immediate aftermath of 9/11. Live and Let Die by Paul McCartney and Wings. This classic song from Paul McCartney and Wings didn't tick any of the above mentioned factors with respect to the song American Pie, but it still landed on the band song list. And while the theme from the first Roger Moore as James Bond flick doesn't talk about planes or attacks or the government, it's easy to see how it landed on the list. Everyone could see that the world was rapidly changing right before their eyes. And lines like, "But if this ever-changing world in which we're living make you give in and cry, say live and let die," were likely a bit too much for radio programmers. Finally, "Tuesday's Gone" by Lynyrd Skynyrd. This classic breakup song from the rock legends Lynyrd Skynyrd in its initial iteration was also banned after 9/11. Now, the melancholy track doesn't refer to anything that one could deem questionable or immediately insensitive after the tumultuous days of 9/11. However, it did reference Tuesday, the day of the week. So Tuesday was the day of the week September 11th, 2001 fell on, and it's likely that this track fell among the banned song list for that reason. Kind of crazy, I guess, very reactionary. So there you have it, 4 songs in the immediate aftermath of 9/11 that I can think of that were pulled immediately. Now, as the months went by, those songs gradually seeped back into the American consciousness as it certainly applied to radio airplay. But it's interesting to kind of think about that 23 years on. And I'm Michael Douglas, and if you like what you see here on the channel, please don't hesitate to like and subscribe. It helps the channel, it helps the algorithm, it helps me bring more of this content to you. Once again, line items, 4 songs that were immediately yanked from airplay in the immediate days after 9/11. Pretty interesting stuff. As the late great Barry White always used to say, let the music play, and I'll see you again on the next episode.